This is Mickey Morandini with the Philadelphia Phillies, and you're listening to the RockStop with Chris Contra.
Welcome into the RockStop. Chris Contra here, and this is going to be a real fun show. My guest tonight put together a very stellar playing career in Major League Baseball. He was an all-star for the Philadelphia Phillies, whom he played 7 seasons with, and that included a World Series appearance in 1993. He then joined the Chicago Cubs in 98, helping them reach the playoffs for the first time in almost a decade. These days, he's an ambassador for the Phillies. I am talking about the dandy little glove man, number 12, Mickey Morandini. How's it going, Mickey?
It's going well. Glad you remember the dandy little glove man.
Absolutely. That's very fitting for your defensive prowess. How did you get that nickname?
You know, when I came over there in 98, Steve Stone and Chip Carey were the announcers, and as I remember it, I was just playing really good defense the first, 2 months or so or something like that, and I think in late May they came up with that and started calling me that on TV, so it was pretty cool. That's actually a neat little nickname. I enjoyed it.
When I think of your career, I think of a team player, a guy who was very reliable, could be used in just about any situation to help the team.
Yeah, I think that's good. I wanted to win. That was my reason for playing sports, is to win. And I wasn't the strongest, and I didn't run the fastest, and didn't have the strongest arm, but I could do the little things. I was very fundamentally sound. I could bunt, I could hit and run, I could steal a base. Like you said, I could catch the ball. I put the ball in play and tried to do a lot of the little things, especially on that Cubs team, because I was surrounded by really good players. I mean, Lance Johnson led off, and then I hit second. Then I had Sammy and Gracie and Henry Rodriguez and those guys hitting behind me. So I was put in a pretty good situation there, and I just needed to be myself and do the little things. And I had career year that year. I had career highs in like 6 or 7 different categories, so it worked out well. Yeah, definitely. I was surprised you weren't an all-star that year. You made the all-star team in 95, but I think your numbers in 98 certainly warranted an all-star appearance. Yeah, that was very disappointing to me. I think I was hitting close to 330 at the all-star break and thought for sure I was going to get the nod. But what really hurt me was every team has to have a representative, and the only representative for the Brewers that year was Fernando Vina, who was having a good year, but that's the only one they could take, so he kind of took my spot because Biggio was going to be the starter. And but it was definitely disappointing. I had much better numbers than a lot of the guys that went that year, so it was quite disappointing for me.
Yeah, right. I mean, like you said, every team needs to have a representative, and you kind of screwed. It's not always the best second baseman that year. It's a guy that
right.
Yeah, right. So that's what happened there. Now, just developing your game early on to be that kind of player to use your speed, hit the ball on the ground. When did you start developing that style?
Well, I had great coaching up and through, even in Little League, up through high school. My college coach was a very disciplined coach that we practiced hard. We worked on those things every day. And then when I got to the big leagues, I had a lot of coaches that were similar in playing style to me. The Larry Boas, the John Vukovic's, the Jim Fregosis, those type of players that really were fundamental players when they played and did all those little things. And they taught me a lot, and I can remember, I think it was 92, I was up in the big leagues for maybe a year and a half, and I was hitting a lot of fly balls and making a lot of easy outs, and I remember one of the coaches pulled me aside and said, if you continue to hit fly balls like that, you're going back to AAA, and it struck me real quick, hey man, I don't want to go back to the minor league, so I ended up getting a bigger, heavier bat and swinging down on the ball and really utilizing my speed a lot more. And by 1994, I was, getting on base. I was hitting close to 300, and things really started to fall in place for me.
I mean, that really speaks volume to how important the right bat is for a player, huh?
It was. It really helped. I choked up. It was called a U1. Normally I swung a 33-31, but this bat was a 35-34, and it was a load. But I choked up probably about 4 inches. I mean, I really choked up on it and just kind of, slapped the ball around a little bit, and it started to feel good, and the swing came. And then once I I got to hitting a lot of ground balls and line drives. I went back to the 33, 31, and everything just kind of, like I said, everything just kind of fell into place from that point on, and I really started to become a pretty consistent hitter in the big leagues.
Absolutely, and so that's interesting that you went back to the other one after that. The heavier bat kind of helped you establish your style at the plate,
right.
And then you went back to the previous one.
Yeah, I mean, I had that bat. I probably used it for a good 2 or 3 months, but like I said, once I got the swing down and was comfortable, and I knew what I needed to do, obviously going back to the bat that I had used forever, especially the size and the length of it. Everything felt normal, and everything clicked from that point on.
Like, did you have a bat that you had a real good stretch games with that, you kept using the same bat and then maybe it like broke or something?
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize how important a good bat is, and the less lines you have on them, the harder, the stronger that bat's going to be. And I had several bats that I probably used at least 30 to 35 games where I was using the same bat, never broke it. It was a hard bat. I was making solid contact, and it's really sad when you finally end up breaking that bat. You're like, oh, that's my bat I've been so hot with. But
yeah.
And then you'd go through stretches where you'd break 6 bats in a week. I mean, that's baseball.
Right.
That's baseball.
Exactly. So after you get on base, as I said, you use your speed quite often. Reading the pitcher, and when you're standing on first base there, what kind of read do you get off him to know this is a guy I could maybe swipe some bags on?
Well, I was always, analytics obviously is huge now, but we still studied and did those types of things back in the day. Now, we didn't have all these computer printouts like we have now. We would watch, tape of pitchers, and you knew which pitchers you could steal on and which pitchers you couldn't. And, pitchers back when I played weren't quite as concerned with the slide step and getting the ball to the plate quickly. Like, I faced Greg Maddux over 100 times. He could care less if you stole on him because he knew he could get the batter out. So,
yeah.
You stole on Greg Maddux all the time because he was slow to the plate and he didn't throw over a lot. Didn't have a great move, but he didn't care because he was going to throw that 80, 85 pitch, shutout and move on to his next start. But there were a lot of guys you knew who you could steal on. You studied moves. Via film and things like that. And then there were other pitchers that had great moves, that were quick to the plate. The catcher had a strong arm, and you knew you had to shut it down. But I really tried to study pitchers as much as I could. Yeah,
cool. So I want to talk about one of your accomplishments, one of the rarest feats in baseball you accomplished in a late September game in 1992. It was an unassisted triple play. And now, for those of you who are listening and don't really know how the significance of that play, I'll just say it like this: a whole team turning a triple play is pretty damn rare. So for one guy to record all 3 outs, that's happened only 15 times in the 150 plus years of the game.
Yeah, it's one of the rarest feats in the game, that's for sure. I was the first second baseman to do it in the regular season. One second baseman had done it in a playoff game back, I think, in the 50s or something like that. And then I was the 9th player to do it overall. And as you said, there's only been 15 of them. So, it's a lucky play. It really is. Everything has to fall into place. And I was in Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh, so I was in front of my own, family and friends. It was cool.
Yeah.
And, they had runners at first and second, full count on the runner. Now, normally you don't send runners like that with no outs because you're trying to stay away from that line drive that can get you a double play or triple play. But Jim Leland sent the runners on a full count, and Jeff King hit a line drive up the middle. I dove. I took probably 3 steps, tramped on second, turned to throw to first, and Barry Bonds was standing right there and tagged him. I mean, the whole play really lasted probably 5 seconds at most, but it's just one of those lucky plays that everything fell into place.
Yeah. So right after you did it, I mean, you knew you recorded all 3 outs. Did you? I've seen the footage. You flipped the ball. Did you ever get that ball back?
Kurt Schilling was on the mound that day, and he says he went back and got it. Now I've watched some video, and he's already passed the white line, and there was no video of him going back to get it. So I have a ball. I don't know if it's the ball. I'll never know if it's the ball. But if it's not the ball, what I probably think happened was the opposing pitcher came out, threw his warm-ups, threw it in a game, and I'm sure someone fouled it off to a fan, and a fan probably has a ball that might not even know that it's the ball if I don't have it.
Wow. Well, you have a ball, and certainly the footage still exists. So that's
right.
That much we have.
Right.
So now that was in a late September game in '92. Now this was the year before you guys went all the way to the World Series, the Phils. The next year, I mean, did you guys going into that year? Did you feel like you had a chance to be that successful?
In '92, we were one of the worst teams in baseball. We came in last place. It didn't look like there was going to be any near future winning streaks for this team. I mean, we were bad. But Lee Thomas, who was our general manager, did a great job. And instead of going out and just getting like a superstar, one player, he went out and he got about 4 or 5 just solid veteran players in Incaviglia, Milt Thompson, Danny Jackson, Jim Eisenreich, those types of guys, and brought them in. And we had a 3 position platoon going in left, right, and second. And everything worked out, and everybody just clicked. We had guys that have career years, and we got off to a hot start. And then the city of Philadelphia really started to back us, and we just took off from there. So it was just we were only out of first place one day that entire season.
Wow!
If you look at our '92 team, you'd say there's no way, but it was pretty. It was just a pretty incredible run.
Yeah, that's interesting what you're saying about the GM going out and getting a bunch of just solid players. And it's like I was saying at the top of the show about you want guys that are reliable and you can put them in any situation and they're going to just be consistent, because I think you get some of the biggest superstars in the game don't have those traits. They could hit the long ball, but they don't have the traits that'll really make a winning team.
Right, and it was similar to what we did in '98 with the Cubs. We brought me and Blauser and Henry Rodriguez and Rod Beck.
Yeah.
I mean, we brought in a lot of veteran players that knew how to play the game, and they had track records that they were going to be consistent, and that's what propelled our '98 team too. Kevin Tapani, those types of players. It was a similar situation.
Exactly. So you say how the whole city got behind your team that year. That's got to be an amazing feeling when you're just on fire, and it's got to help motivate you for the remainder of the season to continue to do well for these fans that are loving it.
Oh, no question. And for a lot of us, it was really the first time we had played meaningful games late in the year. I mean, I'd been in the big leagues September of '90, '91, and '92, and I didn't play one meaningful game, to be honest with you. So to be able to play some meaningful games in August and September, it was awesome. I mean, Vet Stadium was packed with 45, 50,000 fans every night, and that place was just electric.
That's so cool. And then you had the great championship series where you came up with some big hits and a chance to win the pennant. I mean, how was that series?
Yeah, I mean, we took on the Braves, and nobody gave us a chance. I mean, when you're facing Maddox, Smoltz, Avery, Nagel, that type of starting pitching staff, the odds aren't very good. And but we hadn't had a lot. We'd had some success against them during the year, so we went in there pretty confident. And we ended up winning in 6 games, and we got some clutch hits out of Dykstra and Dalton and those types of guys, and got some good pitching performances out of Schilling and Tommy Green and Danny Jackson, and we ended up beating them, and we shocked the world, really. I mean, to beat that team, they were so talented. I mean, they went to the playoffs 15 straight years, for crying out loud. So to beat that team, it was pretty impressive. Right.
And then you got the World Series, where I mean, it was a battle, that World Series against Toronto. And unfortunately, you guys came up just short in that 6th game.
Yeah.
To be that close, it really has to hurt. I mean,
we first off, that Blue Jay team was unbelievable. I mean, they had about 5 Hall of Famers in that lineup. With Molitor and Carter and Robbie Alomar and or Olerud and all those guys. I mean, they were all really good. And Ricky Henderson, for crying out loud. So, I mean, they were just loaded. But we battled. Really, what determined that series, what we felt was the game 4, the 15-14 game. We were up 14-9 in the 8th inning and couldn't hold on. So instead of the series being 2-2, then it goes to 3-1. And, you know, anytime it's 3-1, it's really hard to beat the same team 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't pull it off. We came close and had a heck of a run, but we really came up 10 innings short, to be honest with you.
Yep. That's but you know, that team is still so beloved in the city of Philadelphia. I mean, the Phillies eventually won the World Series in 2008, but a lot of people still talk about that 93 team as being their favorite.
Yeah, it really is. Just the way we played the game, you know, we played hard, we played the right way, we did the little things, and I think the big thing is we weren't supposed to win, and we started winning, and then the city started falling. It's like the 08 team, they were so loaded and talented that everybody knew that they were going to go to the playoffs and have a chance at the World Series. Nobody expected us to do it, and I think that's kind of exemplifies the city of Philadelphia, all that hard work and things like that. And yeah, we are probably the most beloved Philadelphia Phillies team of all time. I think so.
Yeah, and I say with good reason. I mean, because you were just a hard-working, blue-collar type of team, and that's the fans, I think, the old-school baseball fans love those teams the best. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, we got into brawls, and everybody had a mullet on this team. And,
yeah.
You know, it was just a hard-nosed, you know, put it on the line, win every night type of team.
Yep, exactly. And then a couple years later, you made the All-Star team for your first time in '95 there. So
right.
How was the All-Star festivities when you finally get there?
It was awesome. It was just an awesome experience. It was out in Texas, and it was about 120 degrees out there, so it was super hot. But, you know, when you're in the locker room with Bonds and Biggio and Bagwell and Piazza and all these just superstar players, it was exciting just to be in that locker room. I didn't even care if I played in the game, but, you know, I got in, I think, in the 7th or 8th inning. Biggio started, but just to be in that locker room and put your name on the same baseball as 24, 25 other guys. It was pretty awesome.
That's cool. And then, you know, your time in Philadelphia ended around 97. Did you know that was probably going to be your last hurrah with them?
I didn't. It was actually a surprise to me. You know, I'm not a big goal guy. I don't like setting a lot of goals because I think it puts too much pressure on it to try and reach them. I just wanted to go out, play, you know, hard, play as best as I can, and whatever the numbers I put up. But one of my goals was to be the all-time games played at second base. And Tony Taylor at the time held the record. And at that particular time, I was a couple hundred games short. So I thought I'd have a pretty good chance of getting there. And then I got traded in December. It was like 3 days before Christmas to the Cubs. So I was probably about 200 games. I think it was around 200 games short or so.
Oh man!
And yeah, I was creeping up on it. And then, but if I had to get traded, the Cubs were perfect for me because I was living in Valparaiso, Indiana at the time. My wife was from Valparaiso, and so that was like going home. Really, I could go to the ballpark and drive to the park and come back home and things like that. So if I had to get traded anywhere, Cubs were perfect for me. But, you know, I ended up we may get into this, but I ended up going back to the Phillies in 2000.
Yeah.
Thinking, all right, now I can break this record. And I ended up playing, you know, over 100 games there, but I got traded again at the end of that year and ended up coming up a little bit short. But obviously Chase Utley blew everybody away. But that was really my one goal that I really wanted to do, other than to win a Gold Glove. That was my other goal. I wanted to win a Gold Glove.
Yeah, I mean, looking at your numbers, a .989 career fielding percentage, I'm really surprised you never, you know, got a Gold Glove. I thought those numbers certainly looked good enough.
Yeah, just like the All-Star team in '98. I'm surprised I didn't either. I know in '98 I only made 4 errors or 5 errors the entire season at Wrigley Field. I think my fielding percentage was like .992, and they ended up giving it to Brett Boone, who had made 12 or 13 errors that year, but he hit 40 homers. So
yeah, but yeah, that's weird.
It is. It's the Gold Glove is the biggest joke, I think, in Major League Baseball. But you know, if I can't win it in a year where I do .992 fielding percentage, then I'll never win it. So right. it was disappointing once again. But you know, it's out of my hands. I don't get a vote or anything like that.
Right,
so it is what it is.
I think if the fans had a vote, you certainly would have had a number of Gold Gloves in your collection there. But in '98, it's too bad you weren't able to set that mark that you wanted to with the Phillies. But I was certainly in the crowd that was very happy that you came over to the Cubs that year, being from Chicago. And I probably went to more games that year with my dad than just about any other year. The team was just so exciting.
It really was. And, you had the Kerry Wood 20 strikeout game. You had Sosa hit 20 homers in June, the battle with McGwire. And then you have the play-in game against the Giants. I mean, we had a lot of fun games. And obviously the Sosa thing, once August hit, took off.
Yeah,
it was pretty exciting.
That was the big news. Now, you batted ahead of Sosa most of that year, right?
Yeah. And like I said, I had a career year that year. I had, career highs in like 6 or 7 categories.
Yeah.
But, when you're hitting in front of Sosa and Grace, the idea is to get me out. So you're going to see a lot of fastballs, and I did. And I'm a good fastball hitter. And I think that's a big reason why I had career highs in a lot of categories.
Now, so do you prefer batting higher in the order? I know you did most of your career, right?
Yeah, I mean, early in my career, I would kind of fluctuate. Right-handers, I'd hit second. Left-handers, I'd hit eighth. And eighth is not an easy position to hit in. But yeah, I'd much rather hit at the top because I think you're using my skills more. I can bunch over. I can hit and run. I can steal a base. I can do some things at the top of the order that you really can't do when you're hitting eighth. Right.
And now you mentioned the Kerry Wood 20 strikeout game. That was a game in May, I believe, of '98.
Yeah.
A legendary game because he tied the all-time strikeouts record in one game there, and you were playing second base that day. As far as that game goes, now I know Wood only allowed one hit, and it was kind of a questionable hit. It was like because it went off the third baseman's glove, could have been called an error.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, it was one of my most boring games I ever played in because I just kind of stood there at second and watched him strike everybody out. But his fastball was electric that day. It was in the mid 90s, and then that breaking ball, it was the best breaking ball I've ever seen an individual pitcher have.
Yeah.
In one game. I mean, it was filthy. I mean, absolutely filthy. And he made a good Astros hitting. I mean, that Astros lineup was really good, and he made them all look pretty silly.
Yeah.
And the ground ball was to Kevin Ory, and it wasn't an easy play. It was a makeable play, but it kind of took a bad hop up on him, and what are you going to do? But either way, it was the best single pitching performance I'd ever seen.
Yeah, wow. And you've seen a lot of good ones. I mean, playing behind Schilling, and you've seen a lot of good ones, but you would say that was the best one you've seen.
As far as stuff is concerned, absolutely. Nobody even comes close to that.
And his catcher for that day was Sandy Martinez, right?
Right. Yep. He caught Kerry a lot. Jim Riggleman was the manager, and he seemed to think that those two kind of clicked. They clicked that day, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Now, going into that ninth inning, I mean, he needed, I think he had 18 strikeouts or something, so he could have, had that record himself if he struck out the side, but he did punch out two. I mean, was everybody kind of aware that he was in that position?
Oh, yeah, I think everybody was the crowd was standing the last three innings, and everybody was screaming, and think about it. I mean, 7 guys put the ball in play. I mean, that's pretty incredible if you think about it.
It's true, right? And then, as we said, the other interesting thing about that year, of course, the McGwire-Sosa home run chase going on. For a while there, it looked like McGwire was just going to take it and run with it, and then Sosa just kept catching him. It was really back and forth like I couldn't believe.
Yeah, Sammy hit the 20 in June and made it. And actually, I think it was Griffey that was in the running in the first. Griffey might have had them all beat, I think, and then Griffey really tailed off. But McGwire jumped out, I don't know how many home runs, but then Sammy got hot again. And about early September, it was on. And, McGwire had hit one and Sammy hit one. I know we would go to every road team that we played. They had it on the scoreboard. They had McGwire and his number of home runs and Sammy. And in the middle of the game, you'd see him turn McGwire's to a new number, and then Sammy'd hit one. And it was just incredible how back and forth they were going.
It really was.
And McGwire really didn't pull away until I think like the last 4 or 5 games of the year. He kind of pulled away, But it was a heck of a battle, that's for sure.
Sosa he was playing for something. In other words, the Cubs were still in a playoff chase, where McGwire and the Cardinals, I don't believe, were fighting for anything. Yeah, so some might say Sosa had a little more pressure on him to also perform well for the team. Yeah,
no question about it. And Sammy was playing for an MVP, which he ended up winning.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never seen a hitter on my team as locked in as Sammy was that entire season. He was just locked in, and if you made a mistake on him, you paid, that's for sure.
No question about it. And then when Maris's record was broken, that was a game in St. Louis where McGwire barely cleared the fence with that home run.
Right.
So as he's rounding the bases, I remember he missed first base. It was something else.
Yeah, I look back on that home run, and it was such a monumental moment that all of us infielders kind of shook his hand or high-fived him when he was coming around the bases.
Mm-hmm.
And I know our pitcher, Steve Trexel, did not like that. And I don't blame him. The opposing guy hit a home run in a big game, but It was such a monumental home run that you probably weren't ever going to see again until obviously Barry broke it. But I felt like I had to congratulate him, and I did. But looking back, I probably shouldn't have high-fived him going around the bases. But it is what it is.
Yeah, right. I hear you. And then there was, of course, the infamous Brant Brown game that year. I do want to talk about that a little bit because that was a game in Milwaukee. The Cubs were, as I said, they were in a race for the playoffs at that point, and it was a very late game in the season. I mean, I think it might have been like the final week of the season where the Cubs.
I think it was. Yeah.
And you guys needed to win pretty much every game to stay in it. And I think you had a pretty big lead in that one, right?
I think so. And if he catches it, game over. And I think there were a couple of guys, if I remember right, there were a couple of guys on base, and it was a fly ball. He had to go to his right a little bit, I think. But he wasn't on an all-out sprint by no means.
Yeah.
He was pretty much under it, and it just clanked it, and both runs scored, and we ended up losing by a run, I think, if I remember correctly. And at that time, I mean, obviously, us and the Giants were just going back and forth, game here, game there, game here, game there, and a loss like that could have really put us out of commission there. But we were able to recoup and get to that play-in game.
I mean, have you ever seen anything like that where it's like a fly ball, the game on the line, in a pressure spot? And I mean, it hit him right in the glove. I mean, he just dropped it.
Not with the game on the line. I mean, obviously,
right.
I've seen outfielders drop fly balls and infielders drop fly balls before, but not when it's the last out and you're getting ready to celebrate and you plank it. I've never seen that before. But
like you said, fortunately, you guys were able to get to the one-game playoff and win that game against the Giants. And for people who don't know the connection here, the final out of that game was made by Joe Carter, who hit the big home run against you in '93.
Yeah, could you see him going deep right there and we losing that game? That would not have been good for me.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I was watching that one live, and I think it was on ESPN or something, and they pulled up the footage of the '93 home run as he was at the plate. I was thinking, oh, man. But,
it was a little different, Joe Carter, at the time.
Yes.
That might have been his last year, but
I think it was.
Yeah, it was. But Rod Beck was so clutch for us that year. He pitched his ass off, and I think he had over 40 saves, and he really did a heck of a job for us. Yeah, he was a great closer, and so I mean, who would you say is some of the toughest closers you've ever faced that you knew they were coming in, and you're like, oh man? That's a good question. Lee Smith probably was. He's got to be up there. Lee Smith I faced a few times, and Mark Wohlers, who was closer in Atlanta, threw really hard, and Rob Dibble threw ungodly hard, and you were scared to death with him on the mound because sometimes you didn't know where the hell it was going. But I think those three are probably Trevor Hoffman. Oh yeah, he was obviously really good. Closers. Every team had a really good close. We really didn't have a specialized 6, 7, 8 guy. Maybe we had the eighth inning guy, but we really didn't have that specialized 6, 7, 8 guy back in the day. I mean, when we played, you wanted to get the starter out of the game so you could get to the bullpen. That was your goal, because the bullpens usually weren't that good back in the day, except for the closer.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you want that starter to stay in because the bullpens are so good and they throw so hard that you want that starter to stay in. That's part of the reason why the analytics says that, when you face the batter for the third time, it's time to get that starter out of there.
Right. Now, you played on in both leagues. You eventually played with Toronto
right.
late in your career there. Now, let me ask you a question about a pitcher pitching in the American League doesn't have to worry about getting up there and batting. So do you find facing a pitcher like that, they're maybe a little more aggressive because they don't have to worry about getting in the batter's box themselves?
I think so. I mean, they can pitch inside a little bit more. I was only over there for a couple of months, so it was hard for me to tell a huge difference. But that's for sure. I mean, pitchers can pitch inside in that league. Look at Pedro Martinez. I mean, my God, he hit so many people knowing that you weren't going to be able to hit him.
Yeah.
But it's a different feel, that's for sure, for a pitcher, and when you don't have to come up to bat.
Mm-hmm, right. And tell me a little bit about the difference in playing on turf versus grass.
Yeah, I mean, for my game, I loved playing on turf because, like I said, eventually I learned to hit the ball on the ground and hit line drives, and that really benefited me on turf. Turf really took its toll on my legs, especially going from the hard surface to the grass and then back to the hard surface and the grass. My legs really, really felt it as far as your hamstrings and your groins and things like that. I had several hamstring and groin pulls in my career that I had to play through because of that. Which surface would I rather play on? I would say grass for sure.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have that toll on your body. I mean, when you dive on turf, I mean, you feel it. You got brush burns all over your body, and it's a hard surface. And I'd much rather play on grass. That's for sure.
Yeah. Right. So you ended your career around with Toronto. That was your last team?
Yes, I got traded. I came back to Philly in 2000, got traded back to Toronto around the trade deadline, and then came into spring training with Toronto in 2001, and my shoulder was starting to bother me, and I was having trouble with it, so I went and got an MRI and found out I had a torn rotator cuff. So, I had to make the decision, do I want to have surgery, try and come back at 35 years old when I already had a couple of young kids, or do I just want to call it a career and spend time with the family? So I decided to do that. And I did want to play a few more years, but, they always say you want to go out on your own terms, but I didn't really get that chance. But, I played 11 years in the big leagues and made an all-star team and got to a World Series and did some great things while I was, up in the big leagues. So I'm not going to complain about not playing a couple more years.
Yeah, I mean, you had a great career, and I think a lot of people they loved watching you play and appreciated the hard-nosed baseball that you really provided on the field.
Yeah, it was. It goes by so fast. I look back on it's hard to believe that. The 93 season is 27 years ago already. I mean, things just fly by. All my young kids are out of the house now, and it's just flown by. But I had a blast while it lasted, and, I was fortunate to only go on the DL for 1-2 week period my entire career.
Wow.
So I was pretty blessed to stay, relatively healthy. And, I think I got as much out of my talent as I could. So that is fulfilling to me.
Yeah, definitely. Are any of your kids, were they interested in following in your footsteps?
They played up through high school. After that, I don't know if they were talented enough, to be honest with you. A couple of them might have been able to go play at a small college or something like that, but they were more interested in just going to school and enjoying college, and that's what they did. Now, my youngest is out at UCLA right now, it worked out good. They all got good educations, and they all have good jobs, so I'm not going to complain. Yeah,
that's cool. And I mean, I know being a ball player, that takes a toll on family life sometimes because you are away from home so much. How was your relationship? How was it able to survive so well?
Yeah, I just had my 30th wedding anniversary in October. So,
congratulations.
Thank you. The Phillies are the best organization as far as family-oriented by far. And, the families were allowed to go on some road trips, and when they weren't allowed on the plane, I'd fly them out. So they got to go on a lot of road trips, which, kept us together for the most part during the summer. And so it worked out good. I have a great wife. The kids were great. And, now she's probably tired of me now because I'm home all the time. But especially with COVID going around, there's not much I can do. As you said, I'm the Phillies team ambassador now, and I do a lot of appearances for the Phillies and things like that. So this year was a little boring because of COVID, but it's worked out good. It's a great organization. I love the people in it, and hopefully I can continue to do this for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I was watching some of the videos you did for the Phillies, talking about kind of the fundamentals. Recently, you shot some videos.
Right.
Yeah, and great tips in those videos, man.
Yeah. I do help out with the RBI program here and some other things, and they had asked me if I'd do some. We're trying to find ways to reach fans and reach people that we normally can do at the ballpark when they're at the games. You couldn't do it, so we did a lot of Zoom calls and videos and things like that, just trying to reach our fans and give a little bit back during these rough times. So that was one of the things they had me do, was just send out some videos to the kids that they could work on at home while they weren't playing games or practicing.
Yeah, and I think anybody that wants to learn some of the good fundamentals of baseball, you go check out those videos of Morandini showing batting styles, base runnings. It's interesting stuff, and great for anybody that really wants to be a ball player. Now, as we kind of wind down here, I don't want to hold you too long. I do have a few more questions. This is Mickey Morandini. You're listening to here on the RockStop. So I did want to ask you about just certain things like playing a double header. What's the mindset going into that?
First off, you want to have a good first game. That's for sure. You don't want to be 0 for 5 in your first game, because that puts a lot of pressure on you in the second game. But, we didn't love doubleheaders, but it was part of the game. You have rainouts. Obviously, it's a little different now. Back in the day, you'd play one game, have a 20-minute break, and get right back into the second game. Now they do the day-night type of thing,
right,
so they can get double fans into the ballparks. But it's just it's going to be a long day. You prepare mentally for it, and like I said, you hope you can go out there and compete, and you have a good day, because double headers can kill you. I mean, you throw up an 0 for 10 in a doubleheader, it could lead to a long batting slump for you. So you just wanted to go out and have a couple of good games. Right.
Now, and I wouldn't say you were a guy that did many offers, but after coming off something like that, an 0 for 4 or whatever, how do you try to get out of that?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, is when you're slumping. How do you get out of it? And I always knew what I was doing wrong, but it's really hard to fix sometimes when you have a swing that's not working the way you want it to work. So it's just really a lot of extra batting practice, and really a lot of times what you need is you just need to get on base, whether it be a bunt. A lot of times I would try and bunt if I was struggling, just to get a bunt hit and take that big sigh and relief, and all right, now I can get going again, and or hit a ball on the ground and try and use my speed to beat out an infield hit or something like that. But it just took a lot of patience and a lot of work, and you knew you were going to get out of it eventually. It was just a matter of the good hitters, the really good hitters, and the good players get out of it a lot quicker than the ones that don't. Yeah, right. Good point. Now, let me ask you something about you going in to break up a double play. Now, this is always a fascinating thing to watch as a fan. You got to go in hard. You don't want to go in dirty, though. So, right. What's the style there? Well, there's a way to do it correctly, and then there's a way to do it like they did it back in the 60s and 70s and 80s when Bill Madlock would, tumble roll you and send you into the outfield. But, the key is not to put your spikes up. You don't want to spike anybody, but the key is to go in a little bit late, mm-hmm, and try and get him off his feet is what you're really trying to do, so that he can't make a strong throw. And nowadays you have to go into the base. Back in the day, you didn't have to go into the base. You're going right for that guy wherever he is. And and that complicated things, especially for a second baseman that has his back turned to the play. That's a really tough situation. So the biggest thing for me defensively was to get my feet off the ground, because if I got taken out with my feet off the ground, I wasn't going to get hurt.
Yeah.
But if your feet are on the ground and someone comes in, you have a chance of really having a severe either ankle or knee issue. So the big thing is just go in a little bit late and get him off his feet. That's what you tried to do.
Right. That's a great way to say it. And the fundamentals like that, I mean, so important to the game. And base running, when I see a guy slide into first base, I cringe every time I see that. And
but when you're in the heat of the battle and you know you have a chance to get a base hit, or it's an important runner to get on base, everything kind of gets thrown out the window.
Yeah.
But the only time I would possibly slide into first base is if I saw the first baseman's feet get off the air as if he was jumping, because I wanted to get down so that if he did catch the ball, he couldn't apply that tag.
Yes.
That's really the only time I would try it. But you see guys now trying to beat routine throws by sliding into head first into first base, and you're really only going to create an injury at some point. So and you don't get there any faster. I've always been told you don't see track runners, dive over the finish line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They run through it. So if they were going to get there faster, I think all the track runners would be diving. So it definitely doesn't get you there faster. It's just something you do in the heat of the battle.
Right. And I think you make a great point. Yeah, there is a time to do it, and that is to avoid a tag. So that's very true. Now, I did want to ask you about, I know your former teammate, John Kruk, he had a couple of bit roles in some movies, and I saw him in the movie The Fan with Robert De Niro.
Right.
Did you ever think about making an appearance in a movie?
I would love to. Nobody's asked me yet. But, I became good friends with John Cusack when I was playing with the Cubs. He came to a batting practice once, and we kind of connected. And so he invited me to, and I don't remember the movie he was filming in Chicago at the time, but he invited me on set to just watch them, do a couple of takes on some parts of the movie. And it was really interesting. Like, there was a little church scene, and it was Serendipity, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And he invited us into a little church scene that they were doing. It was really a 2-minute scene, and it took them 2 hours to get it all filmed and ready to go. But it's pretty neat how they do that.
Right. Do you have a favorite baseball movie?
I think Major League is one of my favorites. It's funny, and I would say Major League's probably my best one. Yeah.
I wonder if ball players might critique a movie too much and be like, "Oh, that's not realistic," and but you can enjoy the silly ones too, huh?
Yeah. It's I don't know if you can realistically. I don't know if I've seen one that's completely realistic, to be honest with you, but I'd rather have the funny ones that you can laugh at.
I hear you. And then I guess to wrap it up, a question for you is, are there any records that you think that have stood for so long that'll just never be broken?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's probably a lot of them. I mean, starting pitching, you're not going to see someone get 300 innings, or I don't even know if you're going to see pitchers get to 300 wins anymore, because they don't stay in the game long enough. You know what I mean? Things like that. Strikeouts, 3,000 strikeouts is going to be really hard for a pitcher to do nowadays. I think guys can still do the 500 home runs, but you don't know. I mean, it's just the specialized pitching is so much now that it's hard to. I can't imagine someone hitting that many home runs when there's so many good arms, and especially in the bullpen. But stolen base wise, you're not going to see guys steal 120 bases anymore. I hope that comes back, but I don't think it's going to for a while. So I think there's a lot of records out there that it's a different game today. That's the only way I can explain it. It's just a much different game today.
Yeah, I mean, the DiMaggio 56-game hit streak, it stood for so long. I don't think anyone is going to sniff that one.
And that's for the same reason as the home run record is just, you see so many specialized back in the day when he was facing the same pitcher 4 and 5 times a game, and obviously that's going to be that's going to better your chances to get hits. When you're facing a starter for 2 at bats, and then someone throwing 98 on your 3rd at bat, and then another guy throwing 100 on your 4th. I mean, it's just going to be really hard to do.
Now, I know I said that was the last question, but I did just think of another one. So let me give you this one. In the off season, what kind of hobbies did you like that, but you also had to make sure that, you didn't get injured doing them?
Yeah. I mean, I was, first off, when you play 162 regular season games and 30 spring training games, the first thing I did was nothing. I mean, we'd be done in early October normally, and I wouldn't even do anything until probably Thanksgiving. And that's when I kind of turned it up and started conditioning myself.
Yeah.
I didn't do a lot of baseball stuff back then, didn't pick up a baseball too much or a bat. I just wanted to get stronger and prepare myself physically and mentally for the season. And I used my spring training to, get the bat going and get my arm strength going and all that stuff. But in the off season, spent a lot of time with the kids. Obviously, I had really young kids. That was a big part of it. I love playing basketball. Basketball helps get me in shape every off season. I wasn't a golfer back then. I am a golfer now, so that's been a big part of what I do now, especially being team ambassador. I get to go out and golf with a lot of, sponsors and fans and things like that. But,
that's cool.
My off seasons were probably, for the most part, pretty boring. Just kind of laid back, relaxed, spent time with the family. And I'm a golden retriever guy, so I've always had golden retrievers, and that was about it, really.
I mean, and that hard work that you wanted to, keep yourself conditioned and stuff. And it was so important to you staying healthy throughout your career. Like you said, that one little stint on the DL, that's pretty incredible. That's I was
pretty lucky, but like I said, I took care of my body. I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. I wasn't any of that stuff. So I took care of my body and as best I could. And for someone, I feel fortunate because someone that played the game as hard as I did to be only on the DL for a 2-week period, it was pretty awesome.
Definitely. Well, all right, man. I really do appreciate you coming on the show. This was a lot of fun talking with you, and I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year coming up.
Same to you, and stay safe, and hopefully 21 will be a hell of a lot better than 20.
Definitely. All right, man. Take care.
All right. Take care. We'll see you.